and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. I'm Hilary Seabrook, and for this episode I'm joined by Tobie Medland, and we're going to be discussing the Gypsy Jazz Festival London, which is the 6th to the 10th of May 2024. They've got gigs on at the Vortex, Crazy Coqs, Pizza Express, the LSO, St Luke's, Toulouse-Lautrec, and the World Heartbeat Auditorium, which I've never been to, in Nine Elms, Battersea. I'm looking forward to chatting with Tobie, finding out more about the festival and his music. And what you're listening to right now is a track called The Aviary, with Tobie on the violin. So I hope you enjoy listening to this music and then to our conversation. Welcome to Harmonious World, and I'm joined by Tobie Medland, who I have actually seen on YouTube videos playing the violin. Which is great. So I'm going to be playing some music alongside our conversation, I hope, and talking to Tobie mainly about the Gypsy Jazz Festival London, which is in May. So hello, Tobie.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
How did the festival start?
I wish I had a cool story, but it just kind of happened. I realized that it hadn't really been done before in this way. I mean, there's a few festivals around the UK. There was a kind of single venue festival down at the old Lake Bar a few years ago, but I realized that it just wasn't a thing. And it's quite a strong kind of style of music. So it's got quite a lot of people that are interested in it. I was interested in producing, so I just kind of took the plunge. This was back in 2020. So the first ever edition was obviously right at the pinnacle of the lockdowns. So
how did you do that?
Oh, it didn't.
No,
first edition was cancelled. I did some like online kind of live streamy kind of gigs from Toulouse-Lautrec. But yeah, the first edition was cancelled. But the second edition came back strong the next year.
That sounds really interesting, and how funny that you should have tried to start it in 2020 and then
well I kind of came up with it, I guess, around November. Can't remember exactly, but this was like before it really all happened. And I was saying to all my friends, like, do you think it will be all right? And they're all like, oh, it'll blow over by then. It's May.
Exactly. No. Yeah, I had a trip booked to, because it was Beethoven's 250th anniversary that year, and I had a trip booked to Vienna.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, lovely. Still not done it.
Oh no.
Because I just kept thinking, well, it'll be fine by Easter. It'll all be fine. And then, if not Easter, then May, surely.
Yeah. No, alas.
Yeah.
You should get to Vienna.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this is obviously your style of music.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you get into gypsy jazz in the first place?
I play the violin. That's quite a big lead into it if you're also interested in jazz, I guess. Fundamentally, I was introduced to it by a friend. So I kind of learned the violin in school and I think I stopped around just going into A levels. So I did it when I got to like grade 8 and stuff. So I did quite well, but I didn't kind of see it as the thing I wanted to go into as a career. But I had a good friend that was really into Django Reinhardt and gypsy jazz and people like Stuckler, Rosenberg. And yeah, just through him,
Did you go to music college?
No, I went to university. So I studied music up in Leeds. But I didn't go to conservatoire.
No. Okay. And so gypsy jazz, right, let's get to the nuts and bolts of this, because gypsy jazz, it sounds a little bit, I don't know, demeaning somehow. So why is it not? Because I kind of know it's not. So explain to me why I can say it and it's okay.
It is a tricky subject.
Yeah.
I have to, in telling you why it's okay, I have to obviously be quite careful because I don't want to come across as just kind of diminishing the issues that do exist.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, gypsy as an overriding term in this context does is accepted as the kind of preferred term by the musicians that play it, who are from Romany heritage. Sorry. So gypsy is an overriding
Overarching.
overarching kind of word for people who are Romani but don't necessarily fit into the Roma or Sinti or many of the other kind of communities. It kind of avoids you misnaming someone who is, for example, a Sinti, a Roma,
Right.
because that's, I mean, I guess that's similar to misnaming someone who's Welsh as English or something. It's a tricky subject because
Yeah.
different communities also have different kind of feelings on it. So within the Roma community, they're on the whole less comfortable with being called gypsy than in the Sinti community and that sort of thing. But when it comes down to this genre, it is very much kind of the widely accepted kind of term for it.
Yeah. Okay. And it's not kind of cultural appropriation. It's an acknowledgement of the value of that that type of music.
Without a doubt.
So klezmer, in classical field, that's a similar thing where it's sort of people who don't have any sort of Roma background or anything who are playing this music because it's exciting. And I mean, it's what listed, isn't it, with all the Hungarian stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Same with Bartok and Kadai, yeah.
This year you've got, is it 6 venues you've got?
6 venues, 7 days, 6 venues. Yeah.
Excellent. And so what can people expect? So your venues are kind of traditional, if you like, London jazz venues. You've got Crazy Coqs, the Vortex, Pizza Express, Toulouse-Lautrec. What can people expect to hear when they go to one of your gigs in those venues?
It's interesting you mentioned how they're quite staple venues, because that was, that's a very intentional choice.
Yeah.
Part of the festival is trying to promote gypsy jazz and kind of this style of music kind of within a more modern or beboppy or whatever you want to call it kind of jazz community. What's exciting is the players are just as good. They're just as phenomenal players. The music's just as great to listen to. So coupled with the fact that it is improvised swinging music, I think it kind of, I thought that they would be the places to try and promote it. What people should expect is quite varied. There's kind of a mix of more traditional sort of people, more kind of cutting edge kind of people, living legends. So there's a rich variety in what's going on.
Excellent.
But fundamentally, it all swings really hard.
Right.
It's all very exciting. It's all quite evocative. It all kind of reminds you of either kind of Bohemian Paris or Romany stuff or whatever, Eastern Europe. So yeah, there's a lot to look for.
Brilliant. One of the tracks that I've particularly enjoyed listening to of yours is called Alice in Wonderland. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to play a clip from that now.
it's a standard. I think it's from the original Alice in Wonderland Disney film, maybe.
Okay, I
It
don't know
might
the film
not.
very well,
Okay,
so
I might be that might not be quite true, but it's yeah, it's a standard of sorts. I really like the version from Chick Corea did it quite a bit. Don't know of any other gypsy jazz musicians that have played it. I'm sure they have, but
right.
so it's my little
Okay. Because it's lovely the way it starts with the you and the bass, and then
yeah.
everybody else joins in.
Marcus
Uh,
Penrose doing a kind of free kind of
it's
thing.
great, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, yeah, he is. What lineup do you normally play with?
Two guitars, bass, and violin.
Okay.
That's the like for
Right.
me. That's the kind of the dream gypsy jazz kind of lineup. I have another project which is not really a project I gig with, but we've got a recording out and stuff, which is a bit bigger. So that's got two guitars, one of which is electric, not acoustic,
Oh, interesting.
piano and kind of string quartet, and clarinet. Um, but yeah, fundamentally, if I'm gigging out, I'll always try and go for two guitars. One guitar might kind of take rhythm duties, as a drummer might.
Right.
So kind of rhythm guitar, lead guitar, violin, and
Yeah.
bass.
Ah, very
Dream.
good. Yeah. Very good. So apart from the festival, which obviously I will put a link to in the show notes, what else have you got going on this year?
I'm hoping to record a second album. Well, third album technically, but a second album with the band I just mentioned. The problem is money.
Yeah, of course, always.
So
Yeah.
I'm working towards getting the money together to record that. That will probably be later in the year.
Right.
That's mostly kind of my original compositions and stuff like that. What else? I'm working. I can't reveal too much at this point, but I'm
Okay.
working on another jazz festival in London, much later in the year. It's kind of centered around Covent Garden. Um,
Nice.
Keep your ears out. I'm afraid I can't actually like give you all the details on that. Mostly because I
Okay,
don't know them.
but you can give us some details nearer
That's
the
what I'm kind of
time.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Got a bossa nova project actually. So
Nice.
not so much gypsy jazz, but still this kind of relatively defined type of thing.
Yes.
We had our first show at Crazy Cox
Oh,
relatively
lovely.
recently. More gigs with that, maybe a recording. Um, they're the main things. Yeah.
Okay, so lots going on anyway.
Yeah, as always, that's
Excellent.
the way to be.
It's really interesting. A few weeks ago, I spoke to China Moses
Okay.
about about being a musician and all that stuff. And she was saying you can't anymore just be a musician. You've got to be, promoting, or you've got to be, getting help,
Influencer.
yeah, whatever, something.
Yeah.
But
It's,
and it
it's it
yeah,
is what
but
it is.
yeah, and actually in some ways it's better than if you think about Mozart and all those guys, hundreds of years ago who had to be paid by one person. They used to just have a patron who
Mm,
paid for everything, and therefore you had to do what they wanted to hear. So actually, in some
very true.
ways,
It's more artistically
yeah,
liberating.
yeah,
That's a
maybe.
good point. Yeah. Do a lot of video editing.
Okay,
I do a lot of wildlife photography.
okay,
So
but
whatever gives me any money anywhere.
absolutely, and it allows you to then be free to do whatever music you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It is worth it. And it keeps you busy. It can be quite tedious
and
doing
also,
all the music stuff just by yourself, kind of
yeah, I think it can get
not
quite
too
lonely.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
when you do work, you end up drinking a lot and kind of
yeah,
being knackered and stuff. So there is definitely benefits to
yeah.
having other more
Well,
traditional work.
and also you do what you have to do to pay the bills, and then do whatever you want to do creatively. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not all bad.
fantastic. Yeah. Oh, it's really, really nice to talk to you, Tobie. Thank you so much.
No, that's all right. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining me for that episode of Harmonious World. talking to Tobie Medland about the Gypsy Jazz Festival of London, which is 6th to the 12th of May 2024. What you're listening to now is Tobie Medland's Murmuration from his last album, and I look forward to hearing from him with his next album when that comes out. But thank you for joining me once more for this episode of Harmonious World, and I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Tobie and then to this music from him. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.